Welcome to Truth, Money, and Freedom. Today is Wednesday, October 2nd, 2019. Hey, gang, it's pretty warm here in southwest Missouri. It's the warmest September, apparently sixth warmest September on record that we just went through. We have cold weather finally coming, but I'll tell you, I've never run my air conditioning into October before in southwest Missouri that I can remember. Maybe 23 years ago when I moved here. But okay, I want to do a podcast for you, and I want to try and make it as quick as possible. I have a lot of stuff I wanted to cover. Trump, we're at war. These people are sick. President Trump has accused Democrats of conducting a coup to remove him from office, commenting, we're at war. These people are sick. Let's look at some Trump tweets right up here. And hopefully I've enlarged enough for you guys to follow along. And this one says, as I learn more and more each day, I'm coming to the conclusion that what is taking place is not an impeachment, it is a coup intended to take away the power of the people, their vote, their freedoms, their Second Amendment, religion, military, border wall, and God given rights as a citizen of the United States of America. Well, I have several problems, as you might have guessed with this tweet. By the way, this is the Matrix. So you have to understand this is campaign Trump. This is not President Trump. This is campaign Trump now. So he is shifting back to, our rights, our freedoms. Um, so let's see. It is a coup intended to take away the power of the people. The power of the people, you say, Mr. President. That's the purview of government. They take away the power of the people. And I don't know that you've restored any of our freedoms. So let's leave that one alone for now because, everyone in government is worried about taking away power from the people. Okay, he's worried about them taking away the American people's vote. Well, this is campaign Trump. Um, but the votes don't matter. I mean, we have electronic voting machines. There are tons and tons of cases of where these are manipulated. So, I mean, voting just doesn't matter anyway. So, I know a lot of people might disagree with me on this, but I've come to the conclusion because of all the investigations into, and by the way, I can name states, Arizona, Florida, Minnesota, even in Missouri and St. Louis, where I live. I don't live in St. Louis, but I am in Missouri. Just where these voting machines are being tampered with and to give a different result. So, okay, their freedoms. Well, what freedoms are those, Mr. President? Please be more specific. Their Second Amendment. Okay, this is where I'm going to have some harsh words for Mr. President. Mr. President, did you or did you not 2 months ago tell us that we need red flag laws? No answer. Just as I suspected. Because now we're dealing with campaign Trump and not President Trump. I want to remind everyone Trump has been no friend to the Second Amendment. In fact, I would argue, and I could come up with a very good argument, that Obama was better to the Second Amendment than Trump was. So I won't go into that right now. Religion, I don't know that we touched on that with Trump. Military, yes, I am grateful to the president that we are not entangled in any new foreign wars. Very, very, very grateful. So that's positive for President Trump. Border wall. Well, he's got to start doing a border wall now because We Build the Wall showed him up, didn't they? For doing it 5 times cheaper, about 5 times faster, and with twice the quality of what was originally bid to do the section of border wall they completed. So what has happened is the private sector has shown everyone in the world, because this was big. It was on Facebook, it was on YouTube, it's on Twitter. Um, how cheaply they did it and how quickly they did it compared to the government estimate to get it done. So it makes the government look bad, wasteful, and extremely fascist, giving their sweetheart deals to their buddies and their God-given rights as a citizen of the United States of America. Well, I would like you, Mr. Trump, President Trump, I would like you to tell me what my God-given rights are. I know what they are, but you're not mentioning them. And I think that's important that you do that at some point in time. Remind everyone what their God-given rights are in the United States of America according to the Constitution of the United States. And the reason why is because he's not defending them. It's his job as the executive, the top executive of the United States government, to protect and defend our freedoms. That's his very first. That's a, that comes before anything else. So you know, I could go further into this, but I'm not going to at this time. But I think people get what I'm saying here. Um, I don't want to keep on kicking him or anything. I know he is there as our president, and he is probably trying to do some good, but he's not been very successful as of yet, at least not that we know of. If he's successful, in secret, then it should be brought out to light. Okay, next story. Ukraine launched July probe of military hardware sales by Adam Schiff's fundraiser. Well, this is more theater, gang. It's just more theater. It's become a reality show in Washington. The swamp is alive and well, trust me. And but the fun part about it is, and I gotta admit, I don't want to look into this stuff because it's a waste of time. It's like becoming emotionally invested in a science fiction series like Doctor Who or Star Wars or Star Trek. Um, it's That's kind of what I feel like it is to actually delve into what's going on in Washington. It's kind of a waste of time. It could be fun, to be sure, you know, to explore, basically the depths of what drama that they have and try and anticipate what's coming next, like soap operas or stuff. But that's really what this reminds me of. And by the way, I want to say in my last video I misspoke. I said President Trump will never be impeached. Um, I did not speak properly. What I meant to say is he would never be thrown out of office. That's what I meant to say. It'll never happen. Um, and now the impeachment process will probably happen, but it'll be like Clinton. Um, well, they'll have an impeachment process in the House, and then the Senate will, they won't vote him out. So throw him out of office. Okay, next story. Johnson releases new Brexit proposal, delivers ultimatum to Europe. This is getting interesting. However, I'm starting to think this is nothing more than drama related politics. Now, I'm getting confused, and I've now come to the conclusion that there is a strong possibility that there's an enormous amount of disinformation in the press on Brexit. Because remember now, just a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, the courts decided that Boris Johnson could not do a no deal Brexit, and according to the information that we had at the time, that was law. That the British courts made a law, that Boris cannot do this, he cannot do that. Well, he's threatening the EU right now. Take this deal I'm offering you, or at the very least, use it as a foundation to work with me on creating a deal to leave, or face a no deal Brexit. So I don't know what's going on anymore. I think we're going to have to wait about 2 weeks before we start getting some really good information on what's truly going on in Brexit. So I am at a loss, I will admit, but I haven't had a whole lot of time to look at the news lately. Okay, let's take a look at the indices today before we go on to other stories. We're having a red day. And the bond market is the interesting one because the bonds are getting purchased. That means probably, not necessarily 100% accurate. I can write it in stone. You can take it to the bank. But probably uh, a little bit of this money here from the indices is going into the bond market, is my guess. Um, but let's take a look at the bond yields real quick here. And we have the last yield, and that is today, previous yield yesterday. I want you guys to see something interesting. See the 30-year? It's getting ever so close to the Fed funds rate again after they dropped 25 basis points. Not, what was it, 2 weeks ago? Something like that. But at any rate, I think we're looking at another rate decrease here real soon because once again, the yields keep dropping, and that means the bonds are being purchased. Who's buying them? Who would buy them? We've had many discussions about this on Discord, and there's two reasons to buy them. Number one is because the value of the bond, which is not expressed in the yield, well, it kind of is, it's implied, is going up. As these things keep getting purchased, The value of the treasuries actually go up. Now the yield is what goes down. So you can make money on either side of it. You can make money on selling it, or you can make money on holding it, right? But the holding it portion isn't looking so good. The yields keep going down, and once again, that 30-year is coming down slowly but surely to meet the Fed funds rate, which is the overnight rate. And there's still all kinds of interesting activity in the repo market. I'm going to stay reserved on that right now because it just looks like another damn bailout, guys. That's what the repo thing looks like. It is just the only bailout the Federal Reserve could do without congressional approval. That's my opinion. Um, okay, let's take a look at some headlines. Oh, one headline I wanted to show you here, which is important. Global factory doom. German growth forecast slashed for this year and next. Guys, Germany's going into a recession, and there's a lot of countries in Europe that are very, very closely on Germany's heels. We are also slowing down. The entire economy is slowing down, and it's literally the PMI. It's the manufacturing numbers. Manufacturing is slowing down because sales are slowing down. This is happening all over the world. China, Germany, United States, England, Canada. Um, Oil sales are beginning to slow down as well. And that's why I think we're starting to see oil, come down. But trust me, this is like the one number they just don't want to go down. So if it goes below 50, it would really surprise me because they'll muscle it back up somehow. They'll blow up another refinery, in Texas or, in Riyadh, in Saudi Arabia, or, somewhere up in Alaska, the pipeline will burst. That's usually what they do. They destroy some kind of equipment necessary to transport or to refine oil, and then they get the prices to go back up. The one in Saudi Arabia didn't last too long, though. Okay, so we know that oil should be going up. And once again, I've always thrown that in as a possible um, asset that is undervalued. Now, I don't think it's uh, undervalued. I really don't. Um, but I think they're going to force it up. I mean, it's so important to so many economies to keep that oil price up. So that's why I've always said that. There's always a probability oil could just shoot up. It should go down, though. It really should. Okay, headlines. All kinds of negative headlines all over the place, guys. GDP estimates have tumbled since dismal ISM report. Well, GDP estimates are a lie anyway. They're a lie. I mean, we could go into this, and I will in just a moment here. But we have been in negative growth since 2004. And I know you're going, come on, TC, come on. On that one, give us a little bit here. No, I can't. Because John Williams of Shadow Stats has been very specific on his numbers using the 1980 aggregate data, including gasoline, housing prices, pharmaceuticals, healthcare, all the things that have taken out of the GDP today. All that's left is, textiles and electronics. Bombshell report. Boeing whistleblower says company focused on profit over safety of doomed 737 MAX. That's probably not going to be good for Boeing, but then there's problems at Airbus too. New York business conditions collapse. UK launch probe. We already talked about that. Bernie Sanders, heart surgery. WTI tumbles after bigger than expected crude build. Let's see. WTO sides with U.S. says Trump can retaliate for billions in illegal Airbus subsidies. Once again, Boeing's in trouble, so they're going to make sure that its number one competitor is in trouble too. Guys, can you see the patterns here? Can you see the matrix? Is it starting to, you see the numbers going down the screen? um, all major U.S. Equity indices break below critical technical support. That's a big one. Now, they can always muscle them all back up by printing money and stuffing it, just fist feeding money into the markets. And that's what the Exchange Stabilization Fund and the Plunge Protection Team do. However, now we have the Federal Reserve probably doing that as well. So they'll own everything in the end. There is no climate emergency. Scientists call for reasoned debate. Okay, so basically, because of all the alarmist data that's been, coming out of science for the last 50 years, it's been completely, utterly wrong. Apparently, some scientists are saying, maybe we were wrong. Well, you guys, could see this on Zero Hedge, and I just really wanted to cover some main headlines because I've not been covering the news very well lately. Um, and once again, I'm still working on the insurance thing. I'm taking a little break from it right now. When I do my review of insurance companies, I'll explain to you guys why it's taking so long, because normally it shouldn't. It shouldn't be this long. It's been over a month since the lightning hit my house. By the way, my roof is still not fixed, and I'll talk about that another time too. Um, let's see. Fed takes 42 billion in second October repo as funding pressures ease. Oh yeah, so the repo market is saved. Yay! It's a wacky race to the bottom, and the U.S. is losing badly. More information about the race to the bottom. And this is something I've talked about, I think, ad nauseum in the channel, but I think we're going to be talking about it soon because this touches on the currency markets, and I don't talk about that too often, but we're going to need to start talking about it soon because everything that we have predicted in our chat group, Truth, Money, and Freedom, is pretty much coming to pass on the not equities, but on the forex markets. Um, okay, at any rate, I don't want to touch any more of these. Putin shames Greta Thunberg, I think is how you pronounce it, and her handlers over environmental agenda. Russian President Vladimir Putin on Wednesday chided Swedish environmentalist Greta Thunberg and her adult handlers after the 16-year-old gave an emotional speech at the UN late last month. And he says, sure, Greta is kind, but her emotions should not control the issue, said Putin. Well, it's not just the emotions, it's the fact that it's all based on fake data. Once again, gang, we're in the matrix. All the data that's been coming out of the global warming models is fake. It's a sham. It's manipulated. It's a total fraud. And this is probably going to start coming out soon. But the surprising thing is, this data has been available to us for 10 years on global warming, that they fraudulently have been adjusting the models. NOAA did it, NASA did it, and university professors have done it, and they actually kept a log of the changes they made to get the global warming they sought. And that's why all these unusual and extremely um, weird and big predictions of catastrophe have been surfacing from scientists. Is because the data is manipulated to make things look significantly worse than they are. So at any rate, I'll link this down below and everything. I don't want to bash Greta or anything anymore, but as more information's coming about, she's completely discredited now anyway. She's Antifa. At least she purports to be an Antifa. Her parents are an Antifa. Um, and she already identifies as a communist. So, and this comes from her own Twitter feed. So, I mean, should we be listening to someone who is communist and Antifa? No, I'm anti-fascist too, but I'm anti-fascist in a realistic way. And I blame governments for that. I don't blame businesses. It's like having a bit of cheese sitting on the floor and being angry when mice start coming into your house to eat it. That's the politicians literally, put the cheese on the floor. They want to be corrupted. They want that money shoved in their campaigns. They want those free vacations. They want those Lakers tickets. And they're willing to literally sell their soul to get it. Now, the mice that are coming in to eat the cheese are the lobbyists. And that's where the fascism begins, or let's call it crony capitalism, corporatism. So Greta's mad at the wrong folks. Well, she's mad at government for not doing anything about global warming. But really, what she should be doing is studying the fact that it's all fake data and it's all designed to make a lot of money for a very, very few people. I named them before: the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Clintons, the Bushes, Al Gore, Pelosi, Harry Reid, heavily invested in this stuff to make money off of cap and trade. So, I mean, That's what this is all about. Greta is arguing for the top 0.001% of the people in the world to have all the money. That's what she's arguing for. Also, so that third world nations can never ever develop. That's what she's arguing for, and she doesn't even see it. She's 16 years old. She has been brainwashed by the public school system in Sweden. Um, I have a lot more to say about the public school system in Sweden, but it's not related to what Greta's doing. And I'll do it on another podcast. I'm going to probably invite Noodles, one of our senior members, to come in and talk with me a little bit about what they have kids do in school there. For instance, the latest thing is boys wearing girls' makeup so they can more closely identify with girls. And it's just the stupidest thing I've ever heard. By the way, that's real. Okay, let me get off the Greta story. Drudge Report, I bring this up because there is a story here. What happened to Trump's boast of 4, 5, or 6% growth? That's another thing. We can't get it. That will never happen. We're not going to get that kind of growth. The economy is literally on life support and has been since 2008. We can't bring it back to life and get that 4 or 5 or 6% growth. It is over. We're printing too much money. So I know Trump, campaigned on this, but I have to give him an out on this one because I don't think he understood how bad the economy was. He certainly understood that the stock market was fake. It was a bubble. He even talked about it while he campaigned, but then he owned it when he came in, saying, "Look how awesome the stock market is. It's because of me. I'm Donald Trump." He put his name all over it. But let's look at John Williams' shadow stats data. You guys know CPI, inflation, is 10%. It average, or hang on a second, we're doing inflation charts. I'm sorry. Here we go. The 1980 based alternate aggregate data. This is the 1990 where they've already extracted some data from it. 10%. We're averaging 10% since literally 2001. You guys see that? There's the line there. Um, so this is reality right here, and we see it. Those of us who go to the grocery store, those of us who go to Target boutique to get, paper towels, you know, um, whatever, wherever you go shopping, you have to be seeing this. The inflation is big and it's real. It's 10% per year. Even Sweden admits their inflation is at 9%, but America cannot tell the truth because we have the world reserve currency. So therefore, the red line here is the matrix, and they claim 2% inflation. It's not true. So, this is, something that I've harped on before in the podcast, but I think it's important to bring it up again because inflation's about to start going up again. It certainly is in food and medicine, and not necessarily pharmaceuticals. I don't know that one, but it is the case with going to the doctor. That's going up. And in fact, we can take a look at one more thing here. GDP, the real GDP numbers. Once again, gang, the matrix is in red. That's the official numbers for GDP growth. Blue is reality. Blue is real. And that's at roughly negative 2% right now. We have negative 2% growth. So how do we cover that up and say that we actually have 2% growth? That's a 4-point spread. So how can we make it look like we might have positive growth? And that's very simple. That's printing money. That's how they do it. Lowering interest rates and printing money is how they make the matrix come alive as far as the GDP growth is concerned. So, gang, I'm telling you, these numbers are about to start getting worse now, in my opinion. And it's not just because of the repo lending that's going on right now, which they claim will be over on October 10th. We'll see. There's a lot of stuff going. The whole world economic engine is slowing down. It's happening everywhere, and it's simultaneous. This is what they wanted. An entangled, world economic, you know, situation where we go up together, we go down together. I understand the fundamental basis of doing it was that, if there was problems just in one country, the other countries could help raise them up. It doesn't work that way in real life, though, especially when every country in the world is on a fiat currency that's based on nothing. Guys, do you realize how quickly the entire world would change if just one country stepped up and said, we're going to back our currency with gold? Do you have any idea the impact that would have? It's mind-boggling. I can't even think of all the implications and ramifications for it. But that country, if they were able to pull it off, would become the new world reserve currency like that. No one wants to do it though, because you can't afford to just print money. You can't just print money if you have a gold-based standard. You can't go to war anytime you like when you're on a gold-based standard. Okay, final story. Let's see. James Bullard, Fed chair. So lots of joking on, that Trump is going to go ahead and fire Fed Chair Jay Powell and replace him with Bullard, who I believe is the president of the St. Louis Fed. Now, Bullard kind of agrees with Trump, and that should scare you. It is a reality, though. It's a horrible reality that all they have left to do in this debt and death paradigm, I'm quoting Chris Dewayne here, is to print money and lower interest rates. That's all they have left. So the prosperity that many of us saw earlier in our lives is just really not feasibly possible anymore in a sense that is real, in a sense that actually, where you have actually growing wealth, because the wealth based on the dollar is starting to ebb away. So the dollar is still the shiniest turd in the box, and this is why I want to get into forex markets here real soon and start talking about gold versus currencies, but currencies in general. The currencies of the world are slipping against the dollar. And is that because we have an awesome economy? Well, according to Shadow Stats, our economy sucks. But so does everyone else's. Our currency sucks, but so does everyone else's. Ours just sucks a little bit less because we're the world reserve currency. And I'm talking about the United States of America. So, at any rate, this may be a new change coming up here real quick for a change at the Fed, maybe at the end of the year. And then James Bullard may go into that seat and literally lower interest rates and print a feces load of cash and start doing helicopter drops, because gang, we're getting pretty close to the time where the only thing they can do is print money and give it to the masses. And in many ways, I'm not talking about, just coming to your house and giving you an envelope full of cash, although that would be nice. I'm talking about in the form of um, mortgages that pay you. Negative interest rates, gang. It's coming. I know I've been predicting it. I've been saying that they're going to keep lowering interest rates. So far, I've been right. And the new version of QE that's going on right now tells me that I will continue to be right with the overnight lending. So watch for more shenanigans in these areas. And as I close out the video here, it's not all bad news, gang. Hopefully, I'm not, just scaring the piss out of everyone and it's just a gloom and doomer. You guys, you know what I'm doing. I'm in gold, silver, crypto, storable food. That's a big one too. And start getting some of these things if you haven't already. Start preparing for when times are not quite as good. It's not going to be a Mad Max scenario, I believe, where, basically people are riding around and in some kind of weird, constructed car because they've had to piece together all kinds of parts from different cars, going around just trying to find, gasoline, killing people for food. Although that is happening in Venezuela, so I shouldn't even joke about that. Um, but bad times are coming, and are they going to print us out of this? Well, that's what modern monetary theory says they can do, is they can print us into prosperity. Well, that's what they did in Venezuela. and it didn't work for them. And I'm sure AOC would be the first to say, "Oh, that's because they did it wrong. Duh. They didn't know what they were doing. They didn't print the money right. They didn't use the right color ink. Whatever." It's all hyperinflation anyway, slice it, gang. Um, are we getting there? We're not getting to hyperinflation. We're not even in big inflation, but we definitely have inflation. So the only thing I wanted to bring up with that is on the medical side. It looks like 25% inflation right now. And now I can't prove that. That's my gut feeling. And someday I may end up paying for John Williams' service. I could start sharing some data with you guys if I did, putting together my own reports. But I do think the medical side is experiencing about 25% inflation this year. And that's where you start getting into what's called big inflation. And I do believe it's when it's 100% per year inflation is when you can officially call it hyperinflation. So we're getting there, slowly but surely. It's been a long slog, but gold, silver, crypto, storable food, guns, ammo, lots of lead bullion. Make sure you get some of that too. These things, may come in real handy. So that's all I have for you guys for now. I know this was kind of discombobulated. I got a lot of stuff in on this. I'm not even sure what I'm going to title it yet, but I just wanted to make you guys aware of, the attention that you have right now, the time that you have, uh, is something that you probably want to keep, you know, um, focused on what's going to affect you and your family. Um, this stuff that's going on in Washington just isn't real. It's all a grand drama, and I understand that there's real implications with it too. I get that, but there's not going to be a removal of Trump from office. That is not going to happen. So why watch all the drama building up to them even trying to do so? That's kind of the way I look at it. So if you want to watch stuff, keep an eye on the bond market. That's a big one. That's a very important one. The repo market is complex and confusing, and they're just not being honest about what they're doing. But all I'm saying is, keep your eye on the ball, keep your eye on the prize. You know, the drama out there isn't worth your time, and I'm just hoping that everyone that I know and I care about, are getting prepared. They understand what they're seeing, in the future here. Um, and monetary or modern monetary theory will not save us. Printing money. That's all it is, gang, by the way. It's just printing money. They think if they do it a different way and apply the money to different things, that it will actually grow the economy. Doesn't work. Okay, gang, you all have a wonderful day. May God bless each and every one of you.